Hello, everyone. It's Joan Stensler. I'm a communication design strategist and relationship empowerment coach, and I'm here today to talk with you and offer my second installment about the connection between healthy relationships and creating emotional support within your marriage or committed relationship. Today, I'm going to be sharing 10 healthy communication strategies that will help build emotional support and emotional safety. See if you know of any of these. See if you've tried any of these. And if not, consider the possibility that one or more of these may be helpful to you in your relationship. The first one, which is extremely important, is to begin your exploration or begin your conversation with your partner from a place of curiosity, not criticism. So if something happens and your partner says or does something that's upsetting to you, instead of becoming angry about it and telling them about themselves, one of the things you can do is to say, something just happened here and I can't quite figure out where that came from. Can you help me? And allow them to tell you what's going on for them. It's not the easiest thing to do because our natural instinct when we feel triggered, if someone says something to upset us, is to be reactive. And that's the opposite of what's going to help you in that situation. So try being curious. There are lots of ways to do this, and I'll be talking about this in future video. But for the time being, think about ways you could use curiosity as a way to open and deepen a conversation. Okay, the second strategy is something that you've probably heard before, which is when you're speaking with your partner or spouse, use I statements. Rather than saying, you did this, you did that, speak from your own perspective and say something like, I'm feeling unclear about what you just said, or I'm feeling hesitant to talk to you about this issue that's been on my mind because I'm not sure if that's something that's going to go well, and I would like this conversation to be successful. And then perhaps say something like, is there something that we might do to help make it a successful conversation? So again, this is bringing in that curiosity that I mentioned just a little while ago. The third technique is when you hear your partner say something, even if you don't agree, validate what they're saying. I hear what you're saying, and I understand why that makes sense for you. And then talk about whatever else is on your mind. That's a great way to join with them in the beginning to let them know that you appreciate what it is they're experiencing and that it's not so much about whether or not you agree, it's about your hearing them and validating what they said, which is different than agreement. The next really valuable communication strategy is proactive listening, which means you are present, which means you're not on your phone or you're not watching TV or anything else. You are with them in the same place and you're listening. You don't interrupt. And then once they're done, you do what you can to reflect back what you heard them say. They'll say what they have to say and you hear it. Listen, try very, very hard not to interrupt, even if you feel triggered, and then try to reflect back to them what they said. I think I heard you say that when we have dinner at separate times, you feel lonely because you'd like us to have meals together. Did I get that right? And then wait for them to give you feedback and clarify whether or not you got it right. And you can continue to do that until they tell you exactly what they want to say. And then in the process of that type of exercise, which is called mirroring, then you can switch places, and then you can be the one who is actually sharing. Proactive listening and active listening is a very important part of improving the quality of communication because it shows respect to your partner. And in reverse, when you are the one speaking, they are showing respect to you. Okay. The next communication strategy is do what you can to stay calm and try to regulate yourself. That means if in the midst of a conversation, things feel heated for you, feel free to take a break. Plan for this in advance. Talk about it with each other before you have the conversation. And agree that, if it feels like something is overwhelming or if it feels like things are getting a little bit too hot, that you agree to say, you know what, I need to take a break for a few minutes. I'll be back in about 10. Or suggesting maybe it would be a good idea for us to take a break for a few minutes and see what your partner says. If your partner doesn't really want to, you can say, well, I am interested in continuing to discuss this with you, but right now, the way I'm feeling, I think I really just need a few minutes and I'll be back and then we can try getting back to the conversation again. Okay. The reason that's important, one of the many reasons it's important, is because when you're in a situation where you're having a conversation and it gets heated and it's stressful as a result of it getting heated, part of what can happen is that you can get flooded emotionally and then you can't think, because literally what happens is parts of the brain that help you to process what's going on go offline. So when you find yourself feeling that way, it is a good idea to say, I need some time and I'll be back in a little while. The next communication strategy for helping to build emotional safety is to ask for what you need clearly. Be direct, be specific. Don't hint at it. Don't say it in a way that's indicating that you are missing something and somehow it's your partner's fault. Avoid using guilt as a manipulative technique. Never works well because you don't want them to try to read your mind and then get upset with you for what you said. Okay, so it could be a statement like, it would really help me if on the days you get home earlier from work, you could take care of the kids for an hour so that I can take care of some things in the office, or I could make dinner, or I could take a nap, whatever it might be, specifically what it is that you want. And then have a conversation about it if there are some questions or concerns about it, but state it clearly and directly. The thing is that so many women hesitate to ask for what they need because they're afraid they're not going to get it. They're afraid their partner will not accommodate them. And so they avoid asking for it. The obvious problem with that is, on the one hand, if you ask for it and they don't accommodate you, then you'll be disappointed. But on the other hand, if you don't ask for it and they don't know you want it, then they won't try to do it for you, even if they would have if you had asked. And then you're going to be disappointed because the thing that you want, you're not getting. The thing that you would like from them, you're not possibly going to be able to get. So it's always better to find a way, if it makes sense, if it's feasible, to ask for what you want. If you're in a tense conversation, one of the things that's really a great idea to say is, this conversation is a hard one for both of us, but I just want to reassure you that I am here and I'm dedicated to making some progress with this because I care about us and you're important to me. That goes a long, long way in the midst of a tense conversation. And the last thing that I want to mention today, actually, no, I have a few more. The next thing I want to mention is it's important to avoid absolute statements. You always do this, or you never do this, because what you're saying is, This is one way you didn't do it right, and this is another way you didn't do it right. When you always do this, it's annoying to me. When you never do this, it's annoying to me. So it's better to stick to specific situations and talk about a narrower amount of time. When we went to the supermarket the other day and I wanted to shop for some fish and you left me alone and just disappeared and wasn't able to find you, I was very frustrated. Just specifically what it is. Making it kind of non-judging, but just when that happened, I felt frustrated. Or to say it the other way, I felt frustrated when that happened. Okay, two more. It's very hard sometimes to do this, but also very important to try to find a way to create space for your perspective and theirs. In healthy relationships, the priority is not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about what each of you needs and what both of you need together. So rather than trying to argue the point that you have and the perspective you have and trying to convince your partner that they're wrong, which never helps, ever, it would be much better to try and be curious, as I said earlier, understand what their perspective is, and then from there, try to find common ground. What would help both of us in this situation? And the final communication strategy that helps to create emotional safety is something that's super important: practicing repair and accountability. So taking responsibility if you've hurt your partner and directly apologizing for what happened. I'm really sorry that when I became upset with you about such and such a situation, that I yelled at you. I know that that upset you. I should not have done that, and I apologize for having treated you that way. Clear, specific, and direct, and taking accountability. Many people believe that an apology is, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not an apology. Or, I'm sorry you're having a hard time with that. That's not an apology. Or, I'm sorry that happened. So if a situation occurred and something you did directly hurt your partner, saying those general statements totally cuts you out of the equation. In other words, it eliminates your part in it. And if the reason your partner is hurting is because of something you said or something you did, then you need to take responsibility and say, I'm really sorry that when I did that, it hurt you. I apologize. And even if something happened and they had a reaction and it was an unintended thing that occurred for them, they were hurt, you didn't mean to hurt them, it's still important to say, hey, listen, I realize that when I did that, this is how it made you feel. And I know that it hurt you. I'm really sorry. I also just want to say to you, that wasn't my intention. I really didn't want to hurt you, but I see that what happened was inadvertently I did. And so I want to take responsibility and apologize. Being willing to accept your humanity and being willing to take responsibility for your actions is a key part in healing relationships, and doing that in a healthy way, using conversations to help heal misunderstandings, to help build bridges, and to help create a renewed level of trust is so very important for building trust, building respect, and rebuilding the safety, the emotional safety that's so important in our marriages and committed relationships. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to the next time you have the opportunity to join me for another video.